is a secret government school specialized in transforming orphans with no ties into elite assassins. They never heard of love. Since they learned to walk, they also learned to kill. Director Winters believes that feelings are a luxury that a secret agent cannot afford, emotional bonds pure weakness, but this doctrine doesn't sit well with number 47, one of the school's best students. She wants a family, something that's not in Blackwood's curriculum. To make matters worse, she's good at everything she does, which makes her unbearable to her colleagues, especially to her declared rival, number 48. Her impeccable performance puts her as the top of the class and the first to be sent into the real world. Her initial mission, recover a briefcase from a target. She accomplishes the task in minutes without even breaking a sweat. Being in the field means having a taste of freedom, but instead of enjoying the adrenaline of espionage, 47 begins to envy the mundane lives of normal girls. During her next mission, she takes advantage of extra time to research teenage habits. The more she watches, the more fascinated she becomes with the lifestyle she never had. Back to the brutal reality of Blackwood, 47 receives a new mission: capture the American arms dealer Victoria Phoenix. Another blow for 48, who already collects frustrations and of course wanted to take on this mission. But even before she leaves for action, 47 is caught reading magazines during the briefing. Winters gives her a scolding, but in the end, continues betting on her. Phoenix isn't just an arms dealer. She's smart and has a peculiar hobby, taking down Blackwood agents. But 47 isn't just anyone either. Pretending to be captured, she quickly dispatches Phoenix's henchmen and in an unexpected move ties the criminal to a balloon. Before Phoenix can understand what happened, a plane grabs the rope and the two fly away. Great plan except for one small detail. Phoenix still has a gun, a well-placed shot, and 47 plummets into the river below. Meanwhile, Phoenix is captured and taken aboard for a face-to-face encounter with Winters. The conversation between them has a strange, familiar vibe. Down below, 47 survives the fall without a scratch. But when Winters calls to rescue her, something changes. For the first time, she sees a chance to escape this life. Without thinking twice, she throws away the radio and disappears from the radar. Now she's officially free to pursue her true dream, being a normal teenager. To bury her assassin past, 47 takes the name Emily Walsh and enters a student exchange program. She chooses the Taylors as her new family. Arriving in Newbury, United States, Emily is welcomed by the Taylors. Mrs. Taylor and her son Alex receive her with open arms. Sophie, the daughter, doesn't hide her disinterest and keeps her distance. Trying to fit in, Emily hugs a random man thinking he's Mr. Taylor. Small detail. Mrs. Taylor is divorced. At home, Emily notices Mrs. Taylor's genuine affection and feels something new: gratitude. During dinner, she quickly becomes friends with Alex, a boy obsessed with becoming a ninja. Sophie, on the other hand, continues ignoring her. After all, for someone trained to face terrorists, winning over a fake sister may be her toughest mission yet. After dinner, Emily returns to her room determined to blend in. For reference, she uses photos of models from magazines and puts together a look that screams desperate attempt to look cool. On her first day of school, the result is a disaster. She becomes the center of attention and bullying too. Sophie, with the sympathy of a brick, calls Emily weird, but out of pity or embarrassment, she lends her some clothes. Emily, of course, is devastated and confused. After changing clothes, she nervously waits for her introduction on stage. That's when she meets Nathan, the lighting technician who tries to calm her down. Emily, with her limited experience of the real world, drops a gem based on a magazine she read. She says that working with stage lights is for nerds who can't get into the band. Nathan, instead of being offended, is amused. He's the first person to treat her with kindness, and even warns her about the school bullies. And then comes Emily's turn. The local bully, Jake, wastes no time and humiliates her in front of everyone. The audience, always excited about other people's misfortunes, joins in. But then comes Tyler, the school star, ready to save the day. He sings a song for Emily, and in the blink of an eye, she falls in love with his generic heartthrob look. The other jealous girls also fall under his spell. At lunchtime, Emily receives an invitation from the cheerleaders to sit with them, but thanks to her research and readings, she knows this is the quickest path to public humiliation. She politely refuses, because if there's one thing Emily has learned about teenage life, it's that cheerleaders always have an evil plan. Emily arrives at her first class and sits next to Nathan, her new unlikely friend. They connect quickly. At the end of class, the teacher announces that the next day students will have to sit with assigned partners. Emily has already chosen hers, Tyler. While watching her target leaving the room, Jake, the school bully, tries to slap her. Needless to say, it was a terrible idea. Emily takes him down with a single effortless move. That night, Emily decides to fix her mandatory partnership. Using her hacking skills, she breaks into the lab and alters the seating chart to secure a place next to Tyler. Quick, silent, and completely unethical work. The next morning, she sits confidently next to her crush, but soon realizes she's not the only one with this plan. Other girls also want the same seat and start a territorial dispute. The teacher, with no patience for this teenage war, resolves the issue in the worst way for Emily. He appoints Tyler as his lab assistant. After class, two girls who still haven't given up on sabotaging Emily inform her about a vacancy for the school mascot. She knows from her extensive research that mascots are the school pariahs, but the girls sell the idea as if it were the opportunity of the century. If she accepts, she'll have backstage access and maybe a romantic moment with Tyler. Emily, already addicted to making dubious decisions, falls for the trick. She puts on the costume, practices her movements, and as the only candidate makes a presentation full of acrobatics and ends with an exaggerated war cry. The result? Immediate success. She's accepted for the role right away. The only question that remains, how did she fall for this? After some exercises at home, Emily feels something is strange. A mysterious van follows her to school. The big day arrives, and there's Emily, dressed as a Viking, dancing to energize the event. Festive atmosphere, right? Wrong. Out of nowhere, a van stops near the venue, and a group of masked men jumps out to kidnap her. But there's one detail. Kidnapping Emily is a terrible idea. With her experience in hand-to-hand combat, she takes them down one by one without breaking a sweat. As the cherry on top, she even throws an axe at one of the fleeing kidnappers. Then comes the twist. The supposed kidnappers are just students from a rival school, and everything was part of an idiotic tradition between the teams. It dawns on Emily. She was tricked by the same girls who convinced her to be the mascot. She runs away, not out of fear, but of pure embarrassment. Nathan tries to console her, but Emily has already reached her humiliation limit for one day. Back home, she realizes that being a normal student is infinitely more difficult than being a trained assassin. Mrs. Taylor, with the patience of a saint, talks to her like a real mother. She says all this is part of high school and that Emily just needs to be herself. The next day, Emily returns to school expecting more judgmental looks, but to her surprise, they're now accompanied by applause and cheers of encouragement. The fight went viral. Yes, Emily has become an internet legend. Even the bullies who once mocked her now treat her like a star, and like every good high school cliché, Tyler appears out of nowhere and invites her to rehearsal with his band. Because, of course, being a social media phenomenon also has its benefits. Emily arrives early and Nathan surprises her from behind. Bad idea. Her survival instinct kicks in, and before she realizes it, she's already thrown him to the ground. After the incident, Nathan notices that Emily has a peculiar way of explaining martial arts techniques, but instead of questioning, he just smiles. The happy conversation doesn't last long. Tyler and his band appear out of nowhere to end the scene. Tyler monopolizes Emily's attention and asks for her opinion on his new song. While talking to him, Emily realizes they have nothing in common, but that doesn't stop her from wanting to be with him. Realizing her interest, Tyler invites her to Jake's party over the weekend. Emily accepts immediately because, of course, impulsive decisions are her specialty. On the way home, a car begins to follow her discreetly. Nothing suspicious. Before she can react, Blackwood agents capture her. When she wakes up, she's tied to a chair, face to face with Winters for the first time in a long time. Without beating around the bush, he accuses her of working for the Phoenix organization and decides to extract information the old-fashioned way, with truth serum. The substance scrambles her mind and releases her emotions. For the first time, Emily lets slip what she really feels. She doesn't want to be an assassin. She just wants to be a normal girl. Winters, surprisingly, releases her, but at a price. She needs to leave Newbury and return to Blackwood. With the effects of truth serum, Emily is dropped off at home, still drunk. The drug basically transforms her into an involuntary self-help guru. She faces Sophie and delivers a free psychoanalytic analysis. She says the girl pretends to be a tough loner and needs to create real connections. All this without being asked. Sophie obviously doesn't react well. Before the conversation gets weirder, Emily passes out. The next morning, already recovered, at least physically, Emily has lunch with Nathan. They talk about life and its uncertainties. Emily admits she's never done anything really meaningful, But Nathan, always optimistic, assures her she's already impressive in his eyes. The moment is quite beautiful, but Emily, true to her habit of making dubious decisions, leaves the table to sit with Tyler. Before going, she invites Nathan to Jake's party. At home, Sophie and Mrs. Taylor discuss whether Emily should go to the party, considering that she came home drunk the previous night. Mrs. Taylor, to general surprise, defends that Emily go as long as Sophie accompanies her. Basically, a babysitter disguised as a sister. When they arrive at Jake's house, chaos reigns. Deafening music, drinks everywhere. Exactly the kind of night Emily needed to forget her problems or create new ones. But of course, the fun doesn't last long. Number 48, now using the fake name Hazel, is also there. Her mission to watch Emily and ruin her fun. Hazel, unlike Emily, knows how to socialize and quickly becomes the darling of the group. Meanwhile, Sophie has her own mission. She enters the bathroom and finds Jake completely drunk. He already knows her name, probably from school gossip, and invites her for a tequila shot. Inspired by Emily's great wisdom about being more open, Sophie decides to dive into the experience and join him. Upstairs, Emily and Hazel scan the location and choose a common target, Tyler. The two advance, but, predictably, Tyler chooses Emily in the bathtub, because of course it's the ideal place for philosophical conversations at parties. Sophie and Jake discover they have more in common than they thought. Between one shot and another, they begin to develop a special friendship. Meanwhile, poor Nathan arrives at the party and comes face to face with the two having fun. But he has another priority, finding Emily. He goes downstairs to look for her and, at the worst possible time, catches Emily kissing Tyler. Without saying a word, he leaves the party in tears. Sophie is so drunk that she passes out on the couch. Meanwhile, Tyler, acting as if nothing had happened, invites Emily for waffles, but no free breakfast alleviates her weight on her conscience. Emily feels bad for having left Sophie alone. When Sophie finally gets home, comes the great revelation. She got a peculiar tattoo on her face. Dude, that's so 5th grade. Mrs. Taylor obviously freaks out, and the blame, as always, falls on Emily, who abandoned her fake sister to go on a date with Tyler. But not everything is a disaster. The night's fiasco ends up bringing Emily and Sophie closer. After all, nothing unites two people like shared bad decisions. On the way to school, Emily barely has time to breathe before being intercepted by Winters. He wants her to fulfill her promise and return to Blackwood. As if that wasn't enough, he drops another bomb. The assassin Phoenix escaped from the facility. Emily is officially out of Blackwood and intends to keep things that way. Now that her high school life finally makes some sense, the last thing she wants is to go back to being a killing machine. Winters listens, pretends to agree, and plays his final card. When Phoenix comes after her, she'll be on her own. Without time to dramatize, Emily misses the bus to school and catches a ride with Sophie. For the first time, the two talk like real sisters, without jabs or awkward silences. An unknown car appears next to them and, without warning, opens fire. Emily doesn't think twice. She takes the wheel, and in the middle of the deadly chase, she decides this is a great time to tell Sophie the truth. Between swerves and sudden breaks, she explains that she was trained from a young age to kill and that now she has a target on her back. Basically, the kind of conversation that would make anyone reconsider a friendship. Almost colliding with a truck, Emily throws the car into a tight curve and enters a junkyard. It seems like a good hiding place until she realizes the pursuer is still on their tail. The chase turns into a direct confrontation until both cars suffer a bad accident. Emily and Sophie are intact, but when she checks the enemy's car, all she finds is a trace of familiar perfume, Hazel. At the hospital, Emily informs Winters that Hazel is alive and out there causing problems. The response, total surprise. Winters knew that Hazel was still breathing. For him, she died along with Phoenix's escape. Emily quickly puts the pieces together. Hazel isn't just alive, she's working for Phoenix. Without wasting time, she asks for her equipment back, but Winters cuts the conversation. She's no longer a Blackwood agent, so no weapons or gadgets. When Sophie finally wakes up, Emily admits what she should have told long ago. She lied, put everyone at risk, and now needs to leave to keep the Taylors safe. But Sophie surprisingly doesn't want her to go. Emily is about to follow her escape plan when something makes her stop. A drawing by Ninja Alex. In it, Emily is with the Taylor family, as if she had always belonged there. Really a ninja move. The emotional blow works. Emily hugs Alex and, determined, goes back to Sophie, where she finds Jake casually present. After a quick conversation and probably a series of impulsive decisions, Sophie makes a decision. If Phoenix wants a fight, then she and Emily will fight together. The plan is still non-existent, but that never stopped Emily before. The next morning, Emily explains the plan to Sophie. Yes, now they have a plan. With the imminent battle, you'd think they'd spend the day training, right? Wrong. They spent the day having fun. The following night, Emily and Sophie are picked up by their respective partners for the dance. Sophie and Jake, totally at ease, laughing and enjoying the party. Emily and Tyler, a walking social disaster. The conversation doesn't flow, and Emily's attempt to break the ice with a pun only makes the situation worse. Tyler, with the emotional depth of a brick, simply doesn't get it. It's at this moment that Emily realizes the truth. The only person who really understands her is Nathan. Without thinking twice, she leaves Tyler before the show and goes to him. She apologizes, ready to make amends, and makes it clear who she really wants. But then comes a low blow. Hazel has already worked her way in and is now dating Nathan. With no patience for romantic melodramas, Emily resolves the situation the only way she knows, starting a fight. What begins as an argument soon turns into a general brawl. Hazel, armed with a metal bar, attacks with everything, but Emily is quick enough to dodge. When she finds an opening, she hits Hazel in the abdomen, immobilizing her on the spot. But Hazel, because a villain who respects herself never falls easily, throws dust in Emily's face, forcing her to retreat. While Emily tries to recover, Hazel drops the bomb. The assassin Phoenix is after the Taylors. The time for games is over. Hazel is about to stab Emily when Sophie appears out of nowhere and stabs her with a sausage skewer. Yes, Sophie just saved the day with food. The unexpected blow gives Emily the perfect opening to take Hazel down for good. With no time for celebration, they run home and take down one of the guards on the way. Emily enters with determination, keeping Phoenix under the gun's aim. But instead of surrendering to the cliché of the cornered villain, Phoenix drops a bomb. She was the first Blackwood student, number 1. Before Emily can process this information, the other guard appears, this time holding Sophie hostage. Point for Phoenix. With no way out, Emily puts down her weapons. But if there's one thing she's learned, it's that the fight only ends when she says it ends. With a well-placed play on words, she challenges Phoenix to a fair fight. The fight begins, intensely, but Emily comes out better. Phoenix, with no sportsmanship, decides to cheat and pulls out a gun. Before she can fire, Alex, yes, the ninja, throws a light grenade and changes the game. In the next second, Blackwood agents invade the house, eliminating Phoenix's henchmen one by one. In the end, Winters is the one who closes the show, capturing Phoenix. Emily, not believing that Winters really came back to help her, hugs him, and for the first time he admits something unthinkable. He cares about her. But he has a new plan for Emily, not as an assassin, but as an infiltrated agent. Now she can continue her life with the Taylors without having to abandon who she really is. Emily returns to the party and finds Tyler chatting with the teacher and getting along very well, but like really, really well. But poor Nathan, no sign of him. She discovers he's already gone, taken away by his father, and it's at this moment that Emily decides that after everything she's faced, a small detail like a moving car won't stop her. Seconds later, she descends from a helicopter because making contact with a normal person clearly isn't an option. Before a stunned Nathan, Emily confesses her feelings and invites him on a date. He accepts because how do you say no after such a dramatic entrance? And so Emily finally finds what really matters: true connections, a new family, and a life that, for the first time, makes sense. Of course, all this while flying away in a helicopter with Sophie and Jake.